if you go to the human condition, do you think that nostalgia has some truth to it, or is it just nostalgia like any other? Is there some aspect of a intense, competitive, vibrant economy that loses some element
Absolutely.
of everybody being poor together?
Well, everybody having a common goal and a sense of community, right? That is what's missing in these extremely individual-based capitalist societies. And I think what the Chinese government is striving to do with Chinese socialistic characteristics is to somehow try to preserve a bit of that socialist character while still relying on market-based incentives. But if you're an extremely individual-based society, I think you do lose a lot of that. And I think some of the backlash that we're seeing from society is a reflection of that, right? People being alone more and more, the death of despair in the U.S., the addiction, that they're lonely. Right. And competition means that you kind of have to be somewhat badass. And you sometimes put down values and you forsake harmony in order to get ahead. That's certainly the Chinese society now. That was not the case before.
You think that's a natural consequence of capitalism almost always, that you become more individualized, you become lonelier, you feel lesser if you're not winning, and thereby somehow that breaks down society, community more and more?
I think it's a spectrum, right? And Europe is somewhere in between, I'd say. But Europe also is not as technologically and innovative as the US. But on a social level, there is more social protection for the people. There is a stronger sense of community, I'd argue. It's not perfect. Ultimately, it is a choice. And this is what I think that China has to decide, right? Do you want technological supremacy and radical breakthroughs? Well, yes, if you do, then you have to tolerate that there are going to be some people who are going to be uncomfortably rich, right? Like in the United States. You can't say that you detest the financial system for its greed, but then not accept the fact that it is what fuels innovation, right? Risky capital fuels uncertain investments, which allows for countries like the United States to be making these breakthroughs. That's what China wants. But at the same time, China can't tolerate these extremely rich people around and the power that is accrued to them. They want to be a leader in technology, but then the financial system is not liberalized. It's highly regulated, but also, there's also intervention. Even if we look back at the French civil law versus the English common law, well, the former protects creditors, and the latter is more friendly towards debtors, which gives them more breathing space to innovate, but also to fail and to innovate again. And that makes a big difference. So it's all about a spectrum, right? But you can't have it both ways.
We don't often enough have that nationwide conversation about what we want to be as a country. There's just a group of people yelling, we don't want billionaires, and another group saying we don't want communists or whatever. It's a very trivialized kind of chanting. But there is a balance, there is a spectrum, and you get to decide. Do you like the nice things, the
Yep.
nice toys,
And the power that the U.S. has.
and the power, the geopolitical power, the military power, cultural power, influence on the rest of the world? Yeah, you get to choose which do you want.